Hi, Miss K here, youth fitness specialist who's passionate about empowering children through fitness and creator of the Fit Power with Miss K formula. I'm so glad you're here, whether you're a parent or a teacher or a daycare provider, a youth group leader, a volunteer mentor to children, a pediatrician, a psychotherapist who works with kids. Any role that involves caring for or providing a service to children, the Fit Power formula will serve you and it will add value to the interactions with the little ones in your life. You can learn all about the Fit Power formula on my website, misskfitpower.com. I'd also love to connect with you socially through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, and there are links to all of my social media accounts provided on my website. Again, that's misskfitpower.com. But the focus of this video is to tell you a little bit about me and to address the question, why in the world would I trust this Miss K character to empower the children in my life through fitness? So let me start with my name, Miss K. The K actually stands for the first initial in my first name, which is Candy. So I'm not going by Miss K when working with kids to try to be cool or mysterious. Quite frankly, the last thing I want children thinking about when it comes to fitness is candy. So I was born and raised in the good old Midwest in Wisconsin, and I was very fortunate to grow up in a home where I always felt loved, I always felt safe, and even though we didn't have a lot in the material sense, I was always provided for. And I was also extremely lucky to be close with both of my parents. The problem was they had a very disconnected and distant relationship with each other. And for some reason, I was plugged into that very early in life, and it was difficult for me. While, most kids get totally grossed out if their parents show each other any physical affection, I longed for it. And this created an emotional hole for me that just grew over time. And in all my studies and experiences, which I'll talk about in a minute, what I've learned is that if we develop emotional holes during childhood, or a fundamental need doesn't get met during those critical developmental years early in childhood, we eventually will fill that hole with something. For some kids, it ends up being alcohol, drugs. Some kid, it manifests itself into troublesome behavior like bullying. On a more positive note, some kids funnel it into just going nuts with a sport. They're really awesome at baseball or basketball or soccer or whatever the case may be. Well, in my case, I filled it with food. Food became self-soothing for me. I found that I could just completely zone out and disconnect when I would just eat mindlessly. And it allowed me to shift my focus from what I was feeling to food. And that was my escape. That was what I filled that gap with. So by the time I was in about 5th grade, I was obese. I wasn't just overweight, I was obese. And in its simplest definition, obesity basically means that beyond being over your ideal weight, you have excess body fat. And that was the case for me. Now, I had always been a very active kid, but as the weight problem increased, it definitely affected my physical activity. I was hindered in certain things I can do, and then I felt uncomfortable. And of course, at certain points, teasing from other children came into play. So slowly over time, I became less active. And as my activity decreased, I was more prone to feel depressed and hopeless. So as the years went on, through my teenage years and my 20s, I did go through a few bouts where I would focus really heavily on exercise or really restricting my diet. I would just be fed up with the weight issue and how it was hindering my life. So while I was doing it, exercising like a maniac and really being crazy about what I ate, I would drop weight and I felt great. But sooner or later, life would creep in and emotions would creep in, and it just would never stick. And I really didn't get why at the time. So then in my late 20s, I went back to school and I got a bachelor's degree in psychology. And during my studies, I was so just naturally drawn to all of the classes or subject matter that had to do with early childhood development. And I think that was just a combination of I've always loved interacting with kids. I've always done volunteer mentor work. And I've always just been very plugged in with my early childhood experience and have such vivid memories of the feelings and the experiences I had. So it was just natural that I would be drawn to that. So when I wrapped up my studies in psychology, I went on to graduate school for a master's degree in community counseling. I wanted to do psychotherapy. And it was during my master's studies that a light bulb just went off for me. And I realized that diet and exercise are really secondary pieces to the fitness equation. The critical part of fitness, of being a fit and healthy person, is your spirit, is fitness of your spirit. And by spirit, I mean our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, how we look at the world, how we look at ourselves. And I realized that if that's not in check, nothing else is going to matter. And so I got really excited by this epiphany, and I decided, well, now I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to get formal knowledge about the other two pieces of fitness, the diet and the exercise. So I went back to school and I became a certified personal trainer. And the course material is very, not only just about exercise physiology, but I learned a ton about nutrition. And so it was like, wow, I had all three pieces. I understood the spiritual fitness, and then I understood the physical aspects with the exercise and the diet. And I put them all together, and it transformed my life. After struggling my entire life with my weight, with my health, with just getting on track with understanding what fitness was and making it a lifestyle, it just clicked. And then I had another epiphany. I thought, what if when I was a kid, I would have had these tools and I would have had this knowledge? And what if when I was struggling emotionally and going through hard times, if I filled that hole and I dealt with those struggles through fitness of my spirit, my mind, my body? How different could things have been? And then I thought, what if I could be the one to provide those tools for other kids? So that if they're struggling, if they have an emotional hole, if they have a need that's not being met, or maybe none of the above, but just to give them these tools to show them how awesome fitness is, how really it's the only way to live, and how it all starts with the way we think and the way we feel. And once that's in place, the rest of it just happens naturally. So at that point, I went back to school again and I became a certified youth fitness specialist. So I could take all of this knowledge that I had and my life experience and really tailor it to kids and hopefully get out there and make a difference. So maybe that kid over there who's having the same struggle I did with a distant relationship with their parents, they can fill that with fitness. Or the kid that's getting ready to bully someone because he feels terrible about his life situation and the only way he knows how to deal with it is to be mean to somebody else. What if I could give him tools to learn how to deal with that through fitness? So that's how the Fit Power with Miss K formula was born. I thank you so much for listening and taking in the time to learn a little bit more about me. I certainly hope that I will talk to you soon. And until then, I encourage you to choose happiness, live with gratitude, and have a powerfully fit experience every day.